Today, I wanted to tell you a little story about an executive that I visited with recently, because his story was fascinating, and I really loved his perspective. When he and I started talking, he had told me a little bit about some of the things they were doing at their organization, and it is a lot. And then he used this phrase. He said, "We decided that as an organization, we would make an uncommon investment in our people." Uncommon investment. So they decided that they would pay attention to how they invested in their people, in a way bigger, and different than most organizations would ever consider. Here's some of the things they did. They are a strengths-based organization, and so they did the Strengths Finder assessment and one-on-one coaching about those results for every single employee in their organization. They do quarterly, 4 times a year, they do an engagement survey where they ask every single person in the organization how they were feeling about their engagement levels in the organization. And they communicate those results and the average responses back to the whole organization. So they don't take that and be like, "Oh no, this was not so great." Whatever the results are, they communicate that with the organization, as well as how they are going to respond. So if there is an issue, or if there is something that comes up in those surveys that they feel like needs to be addressed, they communicate with the whole organization. These were the results. This is what we're going to do about it. They do leadership training annually for every single person who has a supervisory responsibility. So anybody who supervises anybody gets leadership training on a regular basis. Here's some of the results that they found from this investment in coaching and training across the organization. At this point, 5 years down the road, they have hardly any turnover. And almost every single person who leaves the organization leaves for personal reasons that aren't to do with the organization, right? Like their family has decided to move, something along those lines, rather than, "I got to get out of this place." Their engagement went up steadily as they implemented this process, and now it remains pretty steady. When something does change regarding engagement, so when COVID happened and they had to go more virtual and things adjusted, because they did those quarterly surveys, they knew very quickly what was going on and could respond appropriately. Here's the other thing. They are exceptionally successful financially. They're a very, very successful organization, based on the numbers and based on the finances. They have been very, very profitable. That also allows them to pay their people very well, which also contributes to this whole process of having an uncommon investment in their people. So that feels like a lot, right? And so you may be thinking, "Carol, I could never do that much. Like that would cost me too much. That would be too much for me to invest in my people at this point." My question for you is, what would an uncommon investment in your people look like? It might not be all of those things. It might be one step towards some of those things, right? It might be going, "My supervisors need a little bit of help, and so I'm going to start by investing in training." It might be, "I just want to know what my people think, so I'm going to start with surveying them and finding out how everybody's doing," right? But what would an uncommon investment in your people look like with your team or your organization?